I'm sure that we come from the same era, and it took me a long time to understand the verbiage of needle when I started buying pre-made needles, because for the first 10 years of my career we made our needles for that day, and I didn't know what a power liner or or a tight liner or whatever it was. I just learned over time that if I accidentally had too much solder on the needle grouping and it sucked too far down the needles, that needle was no good anymore, because I would just, it was like a razor blade on the skin. And so I would either go through and try to melt it and open it back up, or normally I would just throw it away and do it again. But I didn't understand the verbiage. I didn't know whenever people started making what they called a power liner or a round shader. And to your point, what I realized is all I use are round shaders. Like that's what I line with. I line with a 7 round shader or a 9 round
That's the
shader.
problem. Yeah. Once everybody started selling stuff, they are all selling them by the terms that are popular. It's not even about what they think is right. It's like, oh, these are what people are asking me for, and they're paying. So this is what we make, and this is what we print on the box. And so terminology is just getting thrown around and mixed around everywhere. So that's why I try to describe the needle now. I'm like, you know what? I'll describe it. I'll show you. I'll draw you a picture. But I don't want to use the terms because there's selling points. And too often, again, it's the tail wags the dog sort of scenario. It's the manufacturers who are, to no fault of their own, they're making stuff, because they're in business and people have to buy it and that has to work. But they're very often catering towards things that ends up being, fun verbiage, fun terminology. Oh, power liner sounds more powerful. We'll get that. And who knows? You could have like one of the needles sticking sideways, and oh, that's a super power liner. And you sell that, and then everybody will be buying that, and then now that's the standard needle. Like, I mean, things can get asked backwards if somebody at some point doesn't have conversations about exactly what they need and bring it back to center. So that's why I like to try to do that, because I've heard so many terms thrown around. I just categorically ignore it. If I hear it, I just let it bounce off me and go away because I don't care. I'll see what it is, and when I'm looking at cartridges, especially, I'm having a hard time finding the ones that look right. When I'm buying pre-made needle on bar, I'm having an easier time, but more often than not, like most of them, the needle on bar companies would, at least for a while, have a series of ones they do that's super tight, and a series of ones that are kind of straight and like maybe somewhat, they call them their traditional line or something like that. And then they'd have ones that are really open, they call them shaders, and then those can all start to mix around and change and whatever. But the straight, basically where they basically are all the same at the back end as they are at the front end, that's what makes the best lines. It's just the biology. We're talking about, you know, the skin at that point, the facts of what comes back and what stays over years is what's determining that. It's not about, anybody's style or their preference or anything else. So it takes some of the guesswork out for some of these other guys too, because they can probably simplify their arsenal.